At this point, I would introduce our facilitator for today. He is a corporate leader, a strategy and leadership consultant, a mentor, author with in-depth knowledge, understanding and experience in diverse corporate operational environments and perspectives, including supply chain, manufacturing, oil and gas industries, etc. Means there are more, spanning over 20 years. He is a distinguished veteran military leader, chief servant and managing partner of V.U.C.A Solutions and FV Global Consultant. He is a member of the Institute of Directors Ghana, host of Leadership 360 TV program on Metro TV. He is an academic scholar with a doctorate in business administration, a master's degree in applied business research from SBS Swiss Business School, Switzerland, an executive MBA from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Our facilitator for today, ladies and gentlemen, has several awards to his credit, including High Africa Global Leaders Awards for Excellence 2024, the New Africa Global Honors Iconic African Leaders Hall of Fame 2023, African Achievers Award, Leadership Excellence in Corporate Leadership and Enterprise 2022, among others. Means there are more. A round of applause for our facilitator, ladies and gentlemen. Our facilitator for today is the author of the book V.U.C.A. World and the Future of Corporate Strategy and Leadership, published and launched in 2021. It is described by many corporate leaders as a masterpiece, and that's the book, as a masterpiece and a critical strategic leadership toolkit. He goes by the hashtag #Learn, Engage, Lead, and Accelerate. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, help me invite our facilitator who will be making a presentation on ethical discipline in the practice of administration and management consultancy. A round of applause for Dr. Victor Abbey. Please, let's do it better with the applause for our facilitator today. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Madam Chairperson, Prof, CEO, distinguished professionals. All right. Distinguished professionals herein gathered. Good morning. Oh, please. Good morning. Good morning. Is it because I've decided not to use my military voice or what? You know, it's been interesting transitioning from military to civil side. You have to change a whole lot of things, the way you talk, the way you look at people, the way you, so that they don't take you to be an intimidating person. And I want to believe that looking at my face, most of you will be wondering, this is the guy who said he was in the military. That's what professionals do. You must be adaptable. Is that also? So on that note, it's quite humbling, Prof. and CEO, for me to be the one to facilitate your continuous education program for this graduation program. I must say it's very honoring, because who am I to be before you? But by the grace of God, we all learn every day. Because I believe in the fact that in as much as we know, the more we learn, the more we know that there is more to learn. So even as I facilitate this training or this program, I still have to open my mind to learn a lot from you. So please don't hesitate to contribute to the discussion. It is very important for all of us to learn. Now, for those of us who were here right on time, let's clap hands for ourselves. because one of the keys to ethical discipline is time consciousness. And so I am proud of all of you who came in on time and the program started. So thank you very much. You made the CEO and Madam Chairperson very proud. For those of us who were late, let's improve, okay? But let's clap for ourselves too. All right. By way of introduction, let me state once again that knowledge is so broad. As we say in Africa, it's like baobab tree. Your one person cannot embrace it. It takes a lot to go around it. And so it is also that in between yesterday and tomorrow's dream, yesterday's regret and tomorrow's dream is today's opportunity. So every single opportunity I personally have, I always want to take advantage of it, regardless of whatever it is. So that led me to thinking about what has become known as Donald Rumsfeld's metrics, knowledge metrics. There are known knowns. There are known unknowns. There are unknown knowns, and there are unknown unknowns. That's a mouthful, but that's the reality of our world. As consultants, there are things we know. There are some things that we don't even know that we don't know. So our open-mindedness is what will lead us. The ones you know, which are facts and realities to you, are also there to aid you to learn more. So whatever we're going to talk about, indeed, we all know about ethical conducts and all those things. But today is to add up to that knowledge, also fill in the gap that you may have. So I want to say that let's allow this knowledge metrics to guide all of us. Personally, that is what I do. Even in my consultancy, I always keep an open mind. That in fact, you must be careful when to express certain, opinions, because you may think you know, but you don't know that you don't know. So in all cases, one of the things we're going to learn today will border on the act of listening or effective communication. The world we find ourselves today is full of challenges. The rapidity of change occurring around us, the complexities, the ambiguity, the uncertainty that's around us are so enormous that sometimes you wonder what is going to happen next. But that is the world we find ourselves in. And consultants require to be more than ready every time to acquire more knowledge so that you can be abreast with whatever is happening. Otherwise, they said, the knowledge of yesterday is rendered so obsolete in no time that what you think you know, in a minute, something else has happened somewhere, and by virtue of the internet superhighway, people are aware. So in your consultancy, you get to somebody and you are talking about, you look at your face and say, this metrics has passed through. For example, talking about SWOT analysis. Most of us still use SWOT analysis to do most of the things we do. But somebody may tell you SOAR is another metrics. It's another thing that we use. SOAR, S-O-A-R, where you rather look at the strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and then results. So you'll be wondering, what is that? We have been taught at school that SWOT analysis is what it is, but that is the world we find ourselves in. So this morning, what I'm trying to do is to mirror on the topic ethical discipline in the practice of administration and management consultancy. What am I trying to mirror? What are some of these principles? What are the issues surrounding the consultancy and then ethics, the culture of ethics? We're going to look at how we can embed it within the organization. Because as the chairperson in her speech, Prof mentioned that it is the foundation of everything. If you don't start right, you as an individual head or leader of that consultancy, you may be doing the right thing, but if the entire organization that culture is not built into it, I can assure you that your brand reputation will be ruined in no time. So we're going to look at all those things. So to do this, I will look at it from, let's clearly understand what we are talking about when we say ethical discipline. What is it? Let's establish that fundamentally so that we appreciate that we are all on the same page before we proceed, so that it is not my own understanding that I'm using to talk. So that if anybody else has another view, we can talk about it. Then the nature and challenges or dilemmas surrounding the world today, the operational environment we find ourselves. What are some of the challenges that are engulfing the environment, that are characterizing everyday activities? We'll look at it so that we can set our minds to why we need to have ethical discipline as our key or core, foundation or underpinning every behavior or every engagement that we have. So we also look at principles of ethical discipline. I'm happy Prof touched a bit on it, and the code of conduct document has also briefly defined some of them. And I'm excited that now we have that code that will guide us in our actions and inactions. Why are we talking about ethical discipline in the midst of the challenges around the globe today? Why? Because economic challenges are compelling some consultants to bend the rules in order to make ends meet. But we are saying that we still have to maintain ethical discipline. Why are we talking about that? We want to look at it. And then I'll open up for questions and your contributions. Now, contextually, when we talk about ethics and ethical discipline, let's look at ethics. We all know that when we talk about ethics, it's basically about a choice between good and bad, or right and wrong. What is generally perceived as right is what everybody prescribes. And whatever is perceived as wrong, generally accepted within society, is what we deem as wrong. And we say reject the wrong and embrace the right. So as consultants, we need to know that it is not about what you define as good or right. It is what is generally accepted. You are a member of CIAMC. What is the code? What is the ethics? What is defined for you is what should guide you. It's not about your definition. So when we talk about ethics, these are basic things like being honest, being trustworthy, transparency, and all those things. One can say they are ideals that we all hope to, attain at any point in time. Now, discipline is about, orderliness, or doing things in a certain manner that somebody can watch and say, this gentleman, this lady is very disciplined. Why do we say he's disciplined? Because the person exhibits certain character or certain behavior or certain, idiosyncrasies, as we may put it. So ethical discipline, if we put it together, becomes, that mindset that you have to do the right thing and to demonstrate to everybody that you are a living example of discipline, of morals. You have morals. You have ethics guiding your actions. So if that is the case, it's not just a moral imperative. Sometimes it's also about regulatory compliance as well. Because doing the right thing is not just that, it has to be done. Somebody will say, nice to have. It's not only about nice to have, it's about must have. So the must have borders largely on compliance, regulatory compliance. So if you know, somebody said, ignorance of the regulation is no excuse. So you cannot say, I'm not aware that this and that is your company rules or regulation. You have to know. Consultants need to probe, ask questions, clarify their minds on a lot of things. So if we establish that this is the foundation of our definition, that ethics border on right and wrong, and exhibition of certain or acquisition of a certain mindset that under all circumstances, regardless of my personal interest, I will live by a certain standard, it means that we are all on the same page. Now, how can we demonstrate all this? How can we embrace this in the midst of challenges around the world? What is the world we find ourselves in? In the MC's introduction of me, he said, a writer of the book V.U.C.A World and the Future of Corporate Strategy and Leadership. That is just a hint that we are in a certain world, and that world defines everything, controls everything we have. Consultants must be abreast with time. So let's establish again the kind of world we find ourselves in. Across the globe, many people have defined or described the world as V.U.C.A. Others coined it as tuna, and others also came up to say it's bunny. Now the V.U.C.A world, V.U.C.A, all these are abbreviations. The V.U.C.A basically speaks to the fact that, in fact, the V.U.C.A was coined by the United States Army War College when the 9/11 took place. In their study to understand the complex nature of security, they came up to describe it as being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Because they could not fathom how, with all the security measures they put in place, the terrorists could still penetrate and hit them hard when they least expected it. So it means that the space, hitherto a lot of people were thinking around the financial crisis that engulfed the globe before the 9/11. So that financial crisis was what economists were talking about, the banking sector, the financial sector, the investment sector, how, all these things will affect economic well-being of people. But when the 9/11 took place, it got to the domain of security. And then in their study, they describe it as V.U.C.A. Now, V.U.C.A is with us today. It's still with us because we are seeing fluctuation in inflation, rise in inflation, economic disparities between countries. Companies are suffering. Even it's impacting on our own consultancy engagements. As companies are not doing well financially, a consultant will not have a lot of work. You agree with me? Everybody is looking at the figures. Where can we balance off? Now, with the V.U.C.A, the volatility is the unstable nature of things. Today we are experiencing war. We started off with COVID when we were all swept off our feet and confusion erupted the entire across the globe. And then supply chains were disrupted. As a consultant, you might have been affected in one way or the other. As if that was not enough, Russian-Ukraine war came in. Then as we are trying to recover from that, then we now have what? Israel, Gaza, now it's extending to Syria. Our own countries or various countries, the African continent is itself experiencing a lot of instability. There's so much confusion. Economic crisis, cost of living is rising, cost of operations in terms of business is rising. So consultants, if you have this understanding, it will inform you in your approach to work. The next thing is the complex nature. You just cannot understand how somebody said, I am going to join a group. Ukraine said, I want to join NATO. Then Russia said, like, you will not join. And you are like, what is happening here? And somebody is having his company strategy and say, I want to execute this strategy. I want to import from Ukraine as part of my supply chain consultancy job. And Russia will say, no, you cannot, because we control the waters around those places. It's complex. You just cannot fathom whatever it is. So that's the situation we find ourselves in. And the ambiguous nature of it is that it just cannot be comprehensible. You just cannot understand it. You cannot profile the right solution or a one solution that fits all. you must be on your toes at all times. That's the kind of world we find ourselves in. Now, when you look, you ask me, so what about the tuna, the bunny? The tuna is basically is describing the turbulence and then the uncertainty. The novel nature of occurrences around us is what caters for the end and the ambiguous nature of it. Now, bunny is talking about the brittleness. So the brittleness relates to the illusory nature of occurrences. They look real. So we have a stability of our inflation rate at a certain point in time. Then we say, okay, now we are stable. The next moment, it changes. So illusory nature is the brittleness that the scholars describe the environment. And then again, it's creating this. The scholars are of the view that this environment is creating so much anxiety, anxiousness, or anxiety within the environment, the economic environment, the operational environment. Companies are looking at, okay, in the midst of all these occurrences, what are we actually going to, what's the next step? Are we taking the right decision? Will it affect us? The decision we are taking, is it going to impact on us? And all those things. Those are the things that they describe as creating anxiety, the occurrences. And then the end is the non-linear nature. Non-linear. There's no pattern. You cannot read and say, from this one, we'll go to this, we'll go to that. No. It's non-linear in nature. So other scholars prefer to describe the complex nature by saying non-linear. Then the I is the incomprehensible nature of it. So some scholars will say it's just a matter of semantics, how one wants to describe it. But the bottom line is that we are in a world described as uncertain, complex, volatile, and ambiguous. Our understanding must go beyond what we know. You cannot limit your understanding to what you know. You must go beyond it. You must be curious. You must be inquisitive. That what if? What if? You must continue to ask what if. But of course, not with the caveat that you do not finally land yourself in analysis paralysis. Otherwise, you continue analyzing and you will not do anything about it. It's said that the willingness is not enough. Action is what you need to take. So let's appreciate all this. I was just by way of just throwing a bit of light. Scholarly work requires that if those of us who are interested in learning more about the V.U.C.A world and all the characteristics and all that, you can read more. Some of the citations are there. But it just throws light on how this kind of space has been studied widely by a lot of people. Remember, I mentioned that this started when the 9/11 occurred. So a lot of academic scholars, practitioners, consultants have ventured into that. Even the popular ones we know, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all those popular consultancy firms, they have all, one way or the other, gone into investigations or research about that. Now, one famous researcher, Jacob Morgan, upon research, he said, the environment we find ourselves in is giving birth to a certain group of things that will define our world again. Leadership must be conscious of that. And these are the 6 key areas. And if you look at it on the screen, I believe, okay, it's clear enough. Artificial intelligence is here with us. Our world, we all know that it is here. It's going to do a lot of things. Some of the things you'll be doing for people as consultants will be taken over by AI. How are you going to fit into that environment? Or as it is now? It is a growing concept. It is being developed on a daily basis. Today, your image can be cloned and you are speaking as though you were the one present at that location. Artificial intelligence. So if you are not known for certain standards or certain behavior, anybody viewing that video can conclude that indeed you are the one making those pronouncements. And that is one of the reasons why we need to understand or comprehend the environment we are in. Artificial intelligence is driving the future, today and the future. Then, pace of change. Change, after all, the Greek philosopher Heraclitus said change is the only constant thing in life. Our lives go through changes every day. Even as we are here, we are going to effect some changes likely to our program today. And most of us effected some changes to be here today. So change is a constant thing. So the pace is going to be faster than we are thinking. So if you are a consultant, or as we are all here as administration and management consultants, how are you positioning yourself to appreciate the pace of change that is, engulfing all of us? The new talent landscape, talking about today at the workplace, we have at least 4 generations. 4 generations at the workplace. What is your own understanding of the characteristics of these generations? How they work, how they approach things, how they conduct themselves. It will aid you in setting standards. Talk about Generation X. I'll say Prof and CEO, Generation X. Prof and Co, baby boomers. Baby boomers were born after the World War II, and then at the time, the description baby boomers was because at that time, they needed to fuel the earth more. And then more economic activities needed to be carried out so that we could have a better space. And their work attitude is different from Generation X, which most of us here belong to. Now, Generation X, we also copied certain traits from the baby boomers because we also suffer small. Let's look at Ghana. 83. The popular 83. Whether you are a child or not, you must learn to survive. Most of us went through school barefooted. Most of us went through school eating, wheat, Tom Brown, and all that. It's equipped us with a certain sense of resilience. And we survived. So, at the workplace today, our mindset is in a certain direction. Compared to those children we are giving birth to, we the Generation X people, the millennials and the Gen Zs, they've been born into an IT world. So they prefer to do things faster with their, and most of them will not think deeper beyond what they are doing. I am not impugning their intelligence or anything, but what I'm saying is that because they were born into a space where technology comes handy, they prefer doing things without, but for you will write. And even when you write, you scrutinize it and say, where is this, where is that? You do that. Now you have all these people in your team. How you, coming from a background where you've been taught certain ethics, certain behavior, today, people are not being told to work hard. They say work smart. So the understanding of the word smart for most of the Gen Zs is about cutting corners, whichever means. Oga, you want this to be done. I have done it for you. Whether I use GPT or not, I have done the work for you. And then you, the Gen X, when you read the work, you realize that there's no sense in this. And then you call the gentleman or the lady and said, we cannot present this to our client. Then the young man will feel you are being you know, you are micromanaging or you don't believe in him or her. That's because we are not taking time to understand the generations. That's the reality of our world today. So think about the various generations at the workplace. Now, purpose and meaning. What are you aiming at? What is your... So everything for now and the future will be driven by purpose. What is your purpose? So we may choose between profitability over ethics, or you choose ethics over profitability. These are things that you commit your mind to. And then he's also saying that morality, ethics, and transparency. You know, when you look at these issues of sustainable development comes in there. We want to now see consultants who are conscious of the environment, who are conscious of the future. Those are the things driving. So Jacob Morgan is saying that globalization will continue. Whatever happens in one part of the world will impact everywhere. But another school of thought is even saying now that deglobalization is setting in. That was brought about by COVID. Because when COVID occurred, most of us, cast your mind back, it brought us to a point where every country was beginning to look within to see how they can survive. The same way companies were also looking within to see how they survive. So, in as much as globalization is leading the frontiers of our work, deglobalization is also setting in at the same time. So the question will be, if companies are no more looking beyond the shores of the operational area, how can you take advantage of that? If they are looking within or they are looking outside, how are you positioning yourself to take, you know, all those things for your benefit? Again, I mentioned sustainability. Sustainability is all about satisfying the needs of today's world without compromising the needs of tomorrow's generation. This is a critical issue. It is driving the space. Consultants cannot ignore these issues. Today, the galamsey in our country, that's the most popular thing, is indicating to us that we are satisfying our needs today, forgetting that the days of old, our grandparents, they knew we had so much, but because of ethics, they managed the resources in a way that the children they are bringing forth will also benefit, because they knew that these resources are meant for our survival. The rules they set those days, where they say don't go into this forest, don't pass here by this time, and all that, they were all meant to preserve the environment for us. Today, what are we doing? So we want everything fast track. Meanwhile, the same generation of we, those of us in here now, as we are showing affluence and all that, we forget that we are leaving behind a group of people. The impact our actions and inactions will have on them. I'm sure if there is anything like crying in our graves, most of us will cry in our graves, especially the very elderly ones. It is unfortunate that we find ourselves in that space. But consultants, that's what you have to be conscious of, and then you advise. As you can see on the screen, just last year, McKinsey research proved that 70% of company executives have become conscious of sustainability issues. So if you don't have knowledge of sustainability issues and you are able to relate and tailor your solutions, you may not be able to operate within the space. And that is why ethical issues are very important. And they are looking for consultants who have that knowledge level. Let's remember, today, the whole globe is talking about SDGs and ESG. For those of us who may not have come across ESG, that is what is driving what we used to call corporate social responsibility. Now, most of the institutions that grant loans, especially international institutions, today, those who are listed on the stock exchange are also being, if you like, compelled to be compliant with ESG related issues. Now, what is this ESG we are talking about? Environment is there. How is your operation impacting the environment? What measures have you put in place? What measures? Now, when you talk about the social part, socially, is your action considering the social impact, both in and out? How are you treating your employees? How are you treating the community you're operating in? What provisions are you making for them? So somebody will say, social responsibility is no longer about just going to dig KVIP anywhere or borehole and go away. No, that action must contribute somehow to environmental needs of the people. It must not damage the environment. For example, you go and do a borehole, yes, but you add a solar panel power. It means that you have contributed to environmental sustainability. But where you go and fix the main light to that, it means that we are also pushing higher the greater impact that nobody wants to see. Now, governance. You see, governance, I love it because this is where ethics comes in. Your deliberations, the board level, the management level, your attitude, your actions, your culture that you build around your committees. It's also part of it. So, these are issues that, as a consultant, we should, wrap our minds around and appreciate the fact that the world is moving at a certain pace. The velocity of change around us is so enormous. Sustainability issues relating to diverse generations, the dichotomy in approach to doing things, they are all things that will inform our actions and inactions. Now, let's grounded that this is what we have appreciated about the world. What are the principles that we can use while still operating in this kind of environment and the future thereof? So we're going to look at these things from the two perspectives, the understanding that we had already with regards to the ethics and the discipline. You want to make ends meet, your company must survive. The company must survive. But you are being told that you must be conscious of the environment, you must cater for the society, you must adopt certain principles. What are these principles? We're talking about competence. I believe that in our own code of conduct, it is clearly stated, in all our education, it is clearly stated that consultants must be competent. And you must only do work or engage in works that you know you are competent in. You cannot pretend to go because of profitability or economic gain. You are not an accountant. But you go and take a finance job, and now you are running around looking for people to come and do it. And usually what happens is that the work will end up being shoddy because you, the one who went for the job, may not have an understanding of what has been done. What has been explained to you is what you're going to, give out. And so competence is key. And you must be ready. Remember, I said, every opportunity, every day is for you to learn, for all of us to learn. So continuous education, I'm happy that as a professional body, the continuous education is ongoing. Then we talk about transparency. Remember, one of the key issues driving the future is transparency. And so, in your actions, how are you being honest? I think that I love this statement that my grandma used to tell me. He said, be known for something or you will fall for everything. He said, Victor, in all your endeavors, make sure you are known for something. Otherwise, you fall for everything. That's why I cited the example that in the midst of artificial intelligence, a video is made with your image and you are speaking. Everybody can see that you're... Some people are so gullible that when they see, they don't make any analysis. So they cannot see that the words are not matching the lips. It's your image they are seeing and you are speaking. And that is it. They said, Professor this is the one who said it. And they will say it with so much authority. And so, what are you known for? In your dealings, are you hiding information? So the principle of ethical discipline requires us to be transparent. Let's be clear. If I don't have capacity, I will tell my client I don't have capacity in this area. We can look for somebody else to handle it. Most of us step out, want to grab everything for ourselves. Or we'll grab it. In a typical Ghanaian society, they say, don't let anything go. Bring it on. We'll look for somebody to deliver it. That may not give you so much credibility. So it's about being transparent. If you don't have capacity, you don't have it. In your costing, how transparent are you? Do you cut corners and say that, let me put, of course, we all know 10% on top. Personally, without impugning whatever integrity of anybody, one of the things that I found interesting in our part of the world, country Ghana, is that at least if you know you want to benefit from this water, the cost of buying this water, you put your top up. If this thing is 10 cedis, make it 20 so that you can take your 10 away. But we'll give it 10 cedis and use part of the 10 cedis. Then we will not go and buy the Belacqua. We will go and buy something lower and come and put there. Then thinking that when the books are being checked, oh, it's 10 cedis. It's 10 cedis on the market. Now when they go and find out it is not Belacqua, it's something else. So please, transparency is very important. Let's be known for something. Otherwise, we'll fall for everything. It builds your trust and set clear expectations. If I am your client, I can vouch and say that if it is Mr. Kofi, please, you are rest assured to be known for something. Confidentiality is a principle of ethical discipline. A consultant cannot afford to go about talking about clients' critical information. Or they gave you a template to use and they have the information there. And then yours is to now adopt that template, share with other clients, and so what are you doing? When they get to know, will you be trusted? Nobody will want to work with such a person. So confidentiality is key. I don't need to belabor that point, but protect sensitive information, especially in this era of, digital age or the digital, the fourth industrial revolution that we are experiencing. If you do not protect confidential information, it may bounce back to hit you yourself harder. So confidentiality, it shows respect to the client, not only you, but to the client as well. Now, independence. You are not the client. Your opinions are independent. Sometimes when we are consulting, certain opinions are imposed. The question is, if that is not your professional stand, do you fall for it? You must be independent and you must be bold to say that from professional point of view, this is what it is. Let it be rejected, but that is as a professional you are speaking. So you have an independent view, but not clouded by what the engaging manager or director is telling you to do. So in our practice, to be seen as professionals, let's abide by these principles. The next one, because of we are working within a certain time, accountability. It is your responsibility. Whatever goes out, so long as your brand is associated with that decision, you are accountable for it. You cannot push responsibility or an accountability to anybody. It is you. You cannot later say that, oh, I actually stated that we should approach the work this way, but the MD said we should do this way. No, you are the one. It's your work. So as a matter of ethical discipline principle, we should learn to be accountable. When mistakes occur, let's admit and say that, yes, we made a mistake. It's an oversight. We're going to take care of it. Or we did not actually look at the issues deeper. We'll go back to the drawing board and restructure it. Or if need be, even compensate the client because it's our fault. But most of us become defensive more times. Now, respect. No matter how small, how big, how medium or whatever, respect is the same across board. I always say that respect doesn't take anything away from you. Whether you show it to the smallest baby, it doesn't take anything away from you. But in our culture in Ghana, one, we look at titles. So when we hear titles, then we are encouraged that, yeah, this guy has a pedigree. When we look at the dressing of the person, then we say, this guy, he has what it takes. Then when we see the car the person is driving, then we are convinced. That is why in Ghana, I must say this, I'm talking from my background as a military person. In Ghana, one of the we are easy praise to a lot of people. In the name of hospitality, we judge people by appearance. And we judge people by the cars they drive. We judge people by the houses they live in. We judge people by the offices they work in. Consultants should have respect across board. The company you are underrating may even be the lifeline to your survival. So respect must be across board. It's a principle of ethical discipline. If you are disciplined, you should show respect to everybody. Remember, we said that discipline, ethical discipline is a mindset. A mindset that commits to doing certain things at all times, regardless of whatever happens. Then, sustainability. Sustainability. Your actions, your recommendations must always aim at promoting sustainability. Sustainability not only relating to the environment, but the sustainability of even the relationship you have with the client. What would this action of mine, how will it impact on the relationship? Is it reversible? If I am found wanting, can I say I'm the one who did it or I am not? These are issues that you need to ponder on. So it's a principle. Sustainability, accountability, respect, issues bordering on transparency, all these things must be part of your principles that you embrace as a person. Of course, in the midst of all this, we face dilemmas every day. As you work, and in your work, you all acknowledge that there are times that you meet certain situations that you know that you are the one to take the decision, but conflict of interest is there. How do you proceed? We always encounter it. Nobody will run away from the fact that sometimes we want to say, I'm not the one who did this. We are not the one because we are protecting another interest. Or we say, it's not the MD. We did it because we want to protect the interests of the MD. Dilemmas come in our pursuit of ethical discipline. But how do you deal with it? One of the ways to navigate around this whole dilemma surrounding ethical discipline has to do with some key steps that we need to take, and then embedding ethical discipline culture within our organizations so that it is clear to everybody at any point in time, when I'm faced with this dilemma, this is the next action I need to take. Now, as a consultant, Michael Archie is a consultant, Davis is a consultant and a scholar. He prescribes some 7 steps that we can, if we are in doubt, as we face these dilemmas, we should ponder on. It's a vicious cycle. You look at it and ask yourself critical questions. So step one has to do with what is the problem? What is the problem? And the second is check the facts. What are the facts that gave birth to this problem? Or what are the critical issues? Then identify the relevant factors. The facts are that Mr. A went to say we will do this work. But we don't, the fact is also that we don't have capacity to deliver this work. Mr. A has lied about the situation. How do we handle, what are the reasons why Mr. A said we have capacity? So you are going through the process. Now develop a list of options. What are the options open to you? Okay, we'll go straight and tell them that it's a mistake, we don't have capacity. What will be the impact? We are analyzing. If we go and tell them, next time they may not even call us. But if we don't tell them to, they will doubt our integrity. So what do we do? Now, test the options. That's what will lead you to testing the options. Now, back in my uniform, we call it war gaming. So you war game. So if I say this, what will the person say? If I don't say this, what will the person say? Or when I take this action, what will be the next one? So you war game. Now, in testing the options, consider what harm will it bring to you and to the client. Is the action reversible or not? If it is reversible, why not? Go ahead. My favorite question I ask in life, in every situation, is this. I learned it from this popular Asian religious leader. He said, can you do something about it? If yes, go ahead. If you cannot, why are you worried? So, for me, if I can do something about it, I will proceed. If I cannot, I'll let it go, and life goes on. Then make a choice. As you test these options, you must make a decision, regardless. And this decision must be informed by your ethical code of conduct. The ethical code that you have subscribed to as an administration and management consultant. It must be underpinned by that. Now, if you are still in doubt, you want to go back and review. So, you want to state again, well, we have taken this decision, but it has given rise to another problem. So what do we do? So you continue the process and you'll be able to come out of it. As I mentioned, organizational culture, embedding an ethical discipline in the organizational culture itself is also another. Now, by way of organizational culture, let's all get to appreciate that it's about those processes, the values that we preach, and all those things, that systems we put in place at the workplace. What systems are there? Do they have value that speak to ethical discipline, or they are something else? Do you cut corners? The processes you follow, are they robust enough so that it will prevent people from engaging in unethical behavior? These are things you need to look at. Now, it must be noted, policies, codes are good to have, but their usefulness only becomes good when they are acted upon. If we execute to the latter and we embed them in our, if they are contrary to the culture, we state, you go to some places, you see the consultant is talking about our core values, and he puts integrity, transparency, and all that. But the moment you enter that place, the MD or the CEO is inside there, but the reception will tell you, oh, it's not around. Then I will go back to the same people, they are bored, and I say, but you put here your values. So what are we preaching? We have stated values, but we are not living by the values. So it is useless. Now what it means is that your staff members will copy the same. They will do the same. Because that is what you are showing them. I had an experience where I was going to see somebody, my team made all the arrangement. I got there, and the receptionist looked at me and said, it's not around. And I said, okay, no problem. So it embarrassed my team members because they felt that I was going to say they didn't do their work. Just as I got to my car, I was about entering, the same lady ran and said, please come. He's around. So I'm like, okay. Emotional intelligence tells me that it is not her pronouncement. It was a directive given to her. So I went back to the reception. She led me to the MD. When I got there, I said, as a matter of personal principle, I deal with straightforward people. You want to judge me before we start? If that is the case, thank you. Bye-bye. And the gentleman said, do you know what you are talking about? I said, yes. I, number one, feel disrespected. So I cannot proceed with this relationship. And I left. Apparently, when I was going towards my car, the young lady saw the car. So because of that, he said, he went and told the guy said, call him back. I mean, what's that? So I left. And later they got somebody else to do whatever it is, but the thing backfired. Then he came to me and told me that I love your principles. I said, yes, I don't want to be associated with something that doesn't show respect. Because I will respect your time, I'll respect your everything. Now, build and drive positive culture, progressive and robust culture right from the beginning. If you have not done so, go through the process of change management and effect those things. Begin to look at how you behave as the leader, how you encourage others to also behave. Most of us, even if we are not going to be at a certain place at a certain time, we don't even communicate it because we feel that we are the organ. There's nothing wrong. Because you are building a culture, you tell your people that, ladies and gentlemen, I will not be at the meeting at this time, but you guys continue, or you wait for me. Let's postpone it to this time. That is showing the way to your people. Then consistently drive that culture from top down. Don't think that you as the leader in your company will behave differently and expect the followers to behave according to your rules. They will not. It will not. And the Gen Zs of today, they will put it to you. Even in our homes, our children will tell us, but daddy, you did this. So, do the right thing. Leadership should be strong guardians of. It is your leadership across board. And I'm not talking by top leadership. I'm not talking about the CEO, board members. No. Every unit may have head. That must be seen reflecting across board. If you don't have that, begin to look at it and say that if we talk about ethical discipline, it's not about you as a person. It's an entire organization. It comes to the culture that you build. Now, another scholar developed this, that for us to have moral management in our companies, which will speak to ethical discipline, we must begin to understand immoral activities or actions and immoral actions. Now, when you look on the screen closely, you realize that the moral management guy or group of people, they actively stand by and conforms to ethical standards. And that is part of their ethical norms. So at all times, they are asking questions. What is the law on this? What is the regulation on this? What's the procedure we have to go through? They stick to the rules and make sure that their self-interest does not override the requirements of their ethical behavior. And they have good intentions at all times. And they always subscribe to one thing, that their success is not desired at the cost of what? The cost of ethical standards. It is not all the successes that you need. You need to embrace it. So this is something you can ponder on. Moral managers live by ethical standards. Assume leadership when ethical dilemmas arise. When your team comes to tell you that this is the situation, they say we should pay this money before we get this. That is where leadership must rise to the occasion. That's the test of your leadership, your ethical leadership standard that you preach. If you say, go ahead and pay them, you have compromised. That's the end of story. That respect for you from your your team member. It's gone. Go ahead and pay. Okay. And he also go and sit back. If he's somebody who has subscribed to higher standards, he will say, no, I can't do this. Because at the end of the day, there's no documentation that said I should pay. Now, finance, if I pay and tomorrow auditors are checking, my MD will deny. If he can tell me to do this, it means that he will deny that he told me. When such a person comes down and tell you, I can't do it, you say you are fired. And then he will say, forever, that man doesn't have standards. So these are realities of our world. One of the other things we should look at is what we call, back in the day, this is how we describe leaders. When we say leaders, we're talking about people who live by example, those who encourage innovation, those who apply reward and discipline. They reward good and they make sure that discipline prevails when the wrong thing is done, or they promote discipline at all times, and they demand higher performance, and they encourage confidence. People must be given that opportunity to be confident in themselves by the actions and inactions that you put across. Then recognize individual strengths and weaknesses and strive for team goals. That's what we call leaders. So if you want to be a leader, you can stop at recognizing individual strengths and leaders and weaknesses. But for the entire group of people, you must also know that the team goals are very, very important. Another aspect in embedding this ethical culture in the organization is about effective communication. Be clear. Adopt the 5 C's. Very concise, clear to the point, and correct, complete. And it must come with some compassion. Your communication must be clear. My favorite example that I use everywhere is back in the, I always refer to my military background. When we are sitting at the officers' mess, when we call the mess boy or the bar guy, we want to eat, we just say, bar, water, hand washing, type, officers, finish. Do you get that? Bar, water, type, officers, hand washing, finish. So the guy understands that I am to bring water for officers to wash their hands, finish. And coded in that, which is established, is that it must come with some napkin or some tissue and all that, because we are talking about officers. So clarity is achieved. You know, it's not now that we're going to say, you know what, we are coming to eat. So can you give us water to wash our hands? Make sure you bring it with tissue or napkin. That's too long. So clarity must be concise, straight to the point. And let's also learn, when we are communicating, we must learn to listen actively. How do you listen actively? You must control yourself. And I say you must you must embrace emotional intelligence. Sometimes somebody may make a pronouncement that may hit you right from the word go. And you want to respond, but you must exercise emotional intelligence and say, could it be that this person has a certain whatever, or am I reacting too much? Then you hold yourself up. So understanding your own emotions and that of others, that is all about emotional intelligence, will tell you that there are times you need to keep silent. We keep disrupting people in our part of the world. Again, I'm talking about Ghana. When people come to our offices and they are speaking, we draw conclusion for them before they even finish the statement they want to make. Somebody starts to tell you something, they say, do you mean? No, please allow the person. I believe Prof, this is your area, and knowing very well that communication can result in a whole lot of things. We must be conscious about this thing. Create a speak-up culture. Let people speak up. If you intimidate people, I tell you, even the military now, they're open for people to speak. They have the opportunity for people to raise their hands and say, sir, I don't understand this. So create a culture within the company. I am faced with this dilemma. I cannot deliver on this promise because finally the client is saying I should do A, B, C, D. But if you don't create that environment, will they speak? They will not. So that's how you embed it in there. Now, continuous training. Train them. Don't assume they know everything. Like what you are benefiting from. You can replicate something like that in your company or your organization, where you let them appreciate what it is when we talk about ethical discipline. Now, when you do this, you are pointing to one thing, building trust. And this favorite equation, David Meza and Co., they said, Mr. and Co., they said, trust equals credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by your self-orientation. That's what determines your trust level. How your team or your clients will trust you will depend on this. Your competence is what we speak of when we say credibility. Your reliability, your integrity. Do you say one thing and do the other? Now, intimacy here is talking about your relationship with your team and with your clients. How is that? Now, the self-orientation here has to do with your self-centeredness. Everything must be about you. Everything must be about you. When people begin to form that impression that everything is about you, what it means is that they cannot trust you for anything. They cannot trust you for anything. So let's take note. Let's ask ourselves, is our credibility on point? Our reliability, which speaks to your integrity, that borders on ethical discipline, and then your intimacy, that will determine a level. Now, why are we talking about all this? Who likes the picture on the screen? Before PlayStation, Africans were playing games. Almost done. So the significance of it is that we need to promote trust, and we need to also be credible. We need to enhance reputation. We need to strengthen our relationship with our clients. And we need to also elevate our legal and regulatory compliance issues. When we demonstrate ethical discipline, these are the benefits we're going to get. Your trust level, your credibility, your reputation, your brand is known for something. That's why not every consultancy is used to deliver certain projects. Some believe in others than others. So by way of conclusion, I would say that we are in a world driven by constant change and ethical issues. You and I have no other option than to make sure that at any point in time, we subscribe to ethical standards. We embed this culture or these ethical standards or discipline in our organizational culture. The nexus between ethical discipline on this and the success of your business cannot be overemphasized. On this note, I want to quickly remind you of the pledge that's just an extract from the code of conduct that has just been launched. That you will maintain high standards of integrity and professional conduct at all times. And I will accept responsibility for my actions. And I will continually seek to enhance my professional capabilities. I will practice with fairness and honesty, and I will encourage others to do so. When you find your colleague doing the wrong thing, you have a responsibility to point it out and say, this is not the standard we subscribe to. Thank you very much, and let's know that the relevance of knowledge is in its application, and the willingness is not enough. It is about action. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Victor Abbey. Please, let's do it better for Dr. Abbey. Thank you so much. So my 3 key takeaways. Let your learning go beyond what you know already. Understand the generations you work with. Understand their orientation and hence how they operate in the work environment. You must be purpose driven and always have sustainability in your mind. As a management consultant and a professional administrator, when providing solutions, make sure you satisfy today's needs without compromising tomorrow's needs. I'm sure you also have so many and questions at the same time. We'll make room for 15 minutes of questions and answers for our facilitator. So in case you have any question, kindly raise your hand and the microphone will be brought to you for you to ask your question. We are doing this for 15 minutes and then we would take our closing remarks from our chairperson for today's occasion. We'll go for lunch. First we'll take a photograph, then we'll go for lunch. So please, question time please. If you have a question, kindly raise your hand. Or we are fine. Those online, in case you have a question, you can type it in the comment section and it will be asked on your behalf here. Okay, so we have a question at the back. So I think we can take 5 questions at a go. Then our facilitator or any members of the high table will respond to it appropriately. Let's hear your question, please. Okay, so 10% charge. Is it ethical? Please, we'll take 4 more before we'll have.
Where you can come at the same point, management meeting and say that, oh, this is not feasible. But here the fees are not part of the meeting. But the issue or the thing is what you work on it. How do you go about it?
Okay, so we'll take 3 more. Okay, so 1, 2, okay. So kindly take the microphone to the gentleman in red.
Thank you. The government support my brother said earlier. Sometimes when you are doing this, your client when you are doing your
Thank you very much. So we'll take it. Kindly pass the microphone to, yes please.
Thank you very much. So, based on your experience, I am asking if you would go to an organization where their culture is at variance with their ethics, as you always reject the work that they assign to you, or you take this as an opportunity to give themselves away. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we have 5 questions here. Yes. Okay, so we have 5 questions from 4 persons. So maybe if there's a final one, we can add it. And is there a final question for this round? Or Doc should go ahead. Okay, Doc, please kindly respond. You can be there. Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
An organization, you want to be ethical, but the system is not allowing.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Doug will respond to the first set of questions asked.
Thank you very much. Hello? All right. So the first one is talk about the 10% inflation or inflating the price. I was just using that as an example. I am not subscribing to that. I said in my statement, I said, at least if you are even going to do it, get the right price so that I can do the job well. But that is not to say that I am prescribing inflation or inflating the price so that you can gain. That's not what I meant. You know, I was using that example because I understood that in some countries, that's what they do. But the Ghanaian wants to prove that he is so righteous, but by giving the price, but at the same time, will take away from that cost. So that was what I was trying to illustrate. It is not to say, let's put it on top and then get it. That's not what it is. Now, the other person said it's not all the 10% about pricing, so that you put something is an obvious or undisclosed thing that they want from you. You don't personally. You see, when you subscribe to certain principles at a certain level, it is not about what I'm going to get today. It's about what I'll get tomorrow. Unfortunately, economic challenges in our part of the world has made us compromise on a lot of things. But I will still stand by the fact that if it got to be done, let me be known for the professionalism that I have. Because it is that professionalism, the knowledge, the credibility, the competence that is making the individual to come to me. So I need to maintain that standard. If out of my own appreciation, I give you something, I am better off than telling you that I am, I put this thing on it to come and benefit you. My conscience will not allow me that you even believe in me. When you get to know that I did that because I wanted to have the job, you will even doubt the costing I've given you. Anytime I give you costing, you begin to look at it that this man with his behavior, I don't believe he can do this at this cost. So for me, it's a matter of principle. All we are trying to preach to you is that let's adhere to certain standards. Let's be agents of change. Yes, our society is replete with all manner of corrupt practices. But like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. How are you changing your small corner? I always say the filth we are seeing today is we who cause the filth, but we are complaining that somebody is not doing his work. If we all behave in a certain way, things will change. If Mr. A does it, Mr. B, Mr. C, we all change. So for me, I strongly subscribe to that. It is difficult, but it is change that must be effective. Now, he said, you were not at a decision was taken and you are being asked to work on it. If a decision has been taken and you are being asked to work on it and you need to seek clarity and register your opinion, nothing prevents you from doing that. Clarity here is what informs this. Can you please give me further explanation on why we are doing this? Clarity is of effective communication. So if you don't understand it, ask. The word itself, ask. He said, ask. The word itself, ask. So A stands for ask. S is seek. And the K is what? Knock. How many of us have thought of that before? When the Bible says, ask, or seek, knock, that is where the word ask came from. So, ask. So please, that's what I believe. And as a professional, you are asking because you want to see whether it aligns with your competence or your competent knowledge that you have. So you should be able to ask. And the other person also said, you get to an organization, the ethical discipline or standard is quite low and is at variance with whatever your standards are, do you reject the offer or you see it as a stepping stone to change? The only way you can proceed is to register the fact that this is what you stand for. And if you accept this offer, you are going to execute it in this way. Then, when they appreciate that, then you can go in. But if you accept it, number one, in my opinion, my candid opinion, I believe that you have already compromised in their sight, that you are also a player in that field. So when you come there now, you want to come and effect change, it may not work. Change management, remember, is a difficult process. Nobody, no human being wants to embrace change easily. So if from the onset you made it clear that these are your standards, it's at variance. But if I am getting this job, I'm going to get it and work with ABCD principles. I think that's the way to go for me. And the responsibility to I think that answers all, I guess. Is there anyone that have not answered? All right. Thank you very much.
Applause for Dirk, please. Okay, so please, we'll take the second batch of questions, if there are any. Do we have some more questions? Okay, so please, we have a hand here, so kindly pass the microphone to her. Can we have the microphone, please? Okay, so we have one here right after that we come here. Let's listen here. Thank you so much for your question. Do we have any on this lane before we shift to the other lane? Okay, so there is one here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm just wondering what will happen. One stands by ethical standards and gets dignified for that. And that's widespread in our policy. People are afraid to speak out or to stand for what they believe because if you don't, you will go. If I don't and I'm about to go, or I'm asked to go, are there any institutions, systems put in place that can really want for protection? Because we don't talk about this and there's no room for, we will just talk and tomorrow our fears and answers away because when I am going, nobody will get protected. So as we talk about these things, can we begin to advocate also for the right systems to be in place that people who want to be ethical and stand on to, be ethical?
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have 1, 2. So 1 here and 2, yes, please. So here first, then here, yes, please. Okay. Okay. Okay, it will be given to you, please. It will be forwarded to your mails. Yes. Yeah. So please kindly pass the microphone to. We have a question here, please. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's so inspiring. Okay, so we'll take 3 more questions. If there are none, then I think we'll close the question session. Okay, so there is one here. Okay, we understand there is one at the far back. Okay, then we'll complete this batch of questions. Thank you. So is that a remark or a question? Okay, so we have a question right at the back. Okay. It's a food for thought. Okay. Okay. So I think that's the third question. All we've had, okay, so we've had one food for thought. Whether our facilitator should comment or not. Okay. So let's have yours. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. All right, okay. So we'll take the final one at the back. Then we'll get ready. We'll be getting ready for lunch. No, there was one final one at the far end. We've exhausted that. Are we done? Okay, so Doc, please, you can answer the, so far, I think it's 2 questions, 1 food for thought. Doc will decide whether to comment on it or not. And yes. Then the other one, I think, Chief Executive will respond to that.
All right. Thank you. The first question, I did not get it right. If you can just repeat it again, so that I'll get the import of it. You spoke about team leader and a team goal, and I didn't get it well. But well, you have the mic now. Mm-hmm. I still didn't get it, but maybe let me paraphrase. It's like a job is to be done. A job is to be done. A team has been assembled to do the work. And there's a team leader. And there's a problem. And the team leader is complaining about the problem. Is that what it is? And then, so what should be done? In any case, if every team encounters challenges along its operational journey, if the team leader observes a problem and it comes to talk about it, it is left for him and the team together to brainstorm on the way forward. It is not about just complaining. The team leader must contribute to finding solutions. He must be able to identify. Remember, we said leaders identify strengths and weaknesses. So in a team, you must know who has capability to do what. And so if a problem arises, there will be members within the team, or the leader must know the strengths and weaknesses to be able to harness those strengths and weaknesses to find solution to the problem. So most leaders will just complain and leave. But leader, you must sit with your team to find solution, brainstorm and find solution to it. So that is what I will prescribe. And the protection of those who speak up, I want to believe that, you see, political expediency will always be there, but administrative arrangement will forever also be there. And I say that it's unfortunate that in our public discourse, we tend to play low on the strength of the public service. The public service is the foundation of governance in this country. Unfortunately, the public service has become subservient to the whims and caprices of political authority. I believe if you know, public servants will live up to their standards, their codes and all that, politicians will behave in a way that will conform to the practice. So I say that over the period, we have allowed certain things to transpire, and that is what is biting us today. But there's a hope. The hope is that we can start from small corners. There are institutions of states today which we all admire and say they do the right thing. How much more, how come others are not doing? It is because somebody somewhere is doing the right thing. So I believe that if we as public servants do the right thing always, we learn and apply. See, you go to, I'll give you a typical example. My house property rate came. I went myself to the assembly, paid. Then only for 3 months down the line, 2 gentlemen came again with a bill and say, your property rate. Then I asked the question, what kind of this thing is this? Now they say, oh, sorry. So you see, it means that due diligence is not being done. And when the politician notices some of these things that you are not up to the task, they will disrespect you. But you must keep up to speed with how you do your job. Professionalism should be key. And I believe that if a chief director looks straight into the face of a political leader and say that, I am sorry, professionally, this is how we have to do it, and all his colleagues do the same thing, nobody will be able to penetrate. But unfortunately, we all compromise. You cannot eat your cake and have it, unfortunately. The slides will be available to all of us, and thanks for the compliment. I'm grateful to the CEO and chairperson for the opportunity for us to all share in this knowledge. Political dilemma, go through the cycle. Political dilemma as to what to do, go through the cycle. The 7 points that I shared with you, where I said, what is the problem? What are the options open? What are the factors contributing to the problem? You test the options. You make a choice. You must make a choice between good and bad. They all have consequences. I say either you shoot or you'll be shot. Is that not so? It's as simple as that. Now, as for the CIAMC, I leave it for Doc to handle. Thank you.
A round of applause for our facilitator.